Welcome to the Prioritizing Prevention Translating Science to Practice podcast. Our goal is to prioritize prevention conversations that matter. Our topic for today is Elevating Youth Voices, the Power of Youth-Led Prevention. With special guests, Robin and Ryleigh. Now here's our host, Holly Raffle.
Hello, and welcome to Episode 3, Season 3 on Prioritizing Prevention, Translating Science to Practice. This podcast is hosted by the Ohio Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health Prevention and Promotion. My name is Holly Raffle, and I have the privilege of serving as the faculty director of the center. Today, we're diving deep into the topic of youth-led prevention, exploring how youth voices are transforming the landscape of community health and well-being. As some of our listeners may know, I need to do a full disclaimer here. I am a product of youth-led prevention. I participated in youth-led prevention efforts in my high school back in the early 90s, and I have been involved with the Ohio Adult Allies Initiative since 2014, so 11 years now, and I am really excited about today's show. Today, I'm honored to introduce Robin, one of the Ohio Regional Learning Collaborative leaders for the Ohio Adult Allies Initiative. Robin is a certified prevention specialist and has a bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in marketing. She's worked in the prevention field for 10 years, actively participating in both adult coalition and youth coalition efforts. Thank you so much for joining us, Robin.
Thank you, Holly.
I would also like to welcome Ryleigh. Ryleigh is currently a junior in high school and plans to become an athletic trainer and physical therapist. Ryleigh loves to work with other people and always makes sure that everyone is following their own wellness journey. Hi, Ryleigh.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
Welcome, Robin and Ryleigh. We're excited to have you both join in today's conversation. So, our listeners really connect with the human side of our guests, which is fantastic. So, as is our tradition, we'd love for you to share something a little beyond your bio to start us off. This could be a peek into your daily work or school routine, what truly excites you about youth led prevention, or even something a little personal you'd like to share with our audience. Robin, let's start with you.
Um, hmm. I think what I really enjoy about working in youth-led prevention is working with the youth. I do enjoy working with the adult coalition as well, but I just think that young people are so interesting and they have such a unique perspective on life and perspective on the world and how it needs to be versus how it is, which I think is just really inspiring.
Thanks, Robin. Ryleigh, balancing school and everything else can be a lot. What are some things you like to do outside of school?
I really like hanging out with like friends and family. I'm also really involved in sports and I'm in like 4-H.
That's a lot. My goodness. I really appreciate you both for sharing, and hopefully, let's buckle up and get ready to deep dive into our conversation. Youth led prevention isn't just about involving young people, it's about empowering them to be the drivers of change, to identify the challenges that they face, and to develop solutions that resonate with their peers in the communities they serve. Adult allies serve as bridges, connecting youth with the resources and experience they need to make a real impact. This interconnectedness, the synergy between youth leadership and adult support, is the key to creating sustainable and effective prevention strategies. Ryleigh, as a youth leader, what inspired you to become involved with youth led prevention efforts in your community?
I was recommended by my guidance counselor and there's a lot of kids from my school that are in it and they recommended how much of an impact they've seen on others. So I thought I would give it a go and it was one of the best decisions I've made.
So, when your peers were trying to say, hey, come join us, what did they do to sort of recruit you to become part of the group?
They talked about a little like of what they do. So like they talked about how we all get together and we like plan our different activities that we're gonna do, and then we do like uh they're like team building or like drop-ins at like people's houses, and we go and like we just like get to know each other and we all like spend time.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So tell me, how long have you been involved in youth-led prevention?
This is actually my first year like with like the program.
Wow. So the first year and you're already involved in conducting programming. So tell me about what it was like when you first started and to kind of get you to where you are today.
Uh, when I first started, I was very, like, unsure of, like, what the setting was gonna be like, but it's definitely a lot different than what I expected, and it has helped me with, like, my communication and not being, like, afraid to, like, present and, like, give my ideas to other people. It has helped me become, like, the leader that I am today.
Thank you so much. And Robin, you've dedicated over a decade to prevention, working with both adults and young people. So, to begin, can you kind of paint a picture for our listeners about the similarities and differences in working alongside youth versus working alongside adults?
Sure. So I think that in a lot of ways, it's really similar to work with youth and adults. The basic structure is similar in that, relationship building is super important. It's important to keep people engaged, um, and to feel valued. But I think that the differences come in like the execution portion of those coalitions. So the way that you might engage a high schooler in your group and keeping them interested and making them feel valued might be completely different than the way that you might do the same with your adult coalition member.
Thank you. And I'm kind of getting a vision of, both groups are doing similar types of activities. The way you go about leading or serving them is just a little bit different. So, can you give an example of what you might change ever so slightly when you're working with adults versus working with young people or vice versa?
Um, I think one of the main things that I would consider different between adults and youth is like the power dynamic, right? So when adults come to the table together, it's generally assumed that everyone there is in a professional capacity. They have a similar, like, division of power. Uh, it goes without saying a little bit that their opinions will be valued and respected. And sometimes when youth come to the table, that's not a given. It's something that you have to be a bit more intentional about. That you want to make that a safe, I guess, and supportive environment for them, but that they also feel that their opinion is valued and that they are comfortable sharing it with you and with the other members of their team.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard Riley allude to one of her biggest areas of growth was being able to present ideas and feel valued through the process. So, as you're thinking, Robin, about prevention for youth and youth led prevention, can you talk about kind of the distinction between those two terms?
I think that prevention for youth has a tendency to be more of a top down kind of presentation uh, or program. It is all about the adult as the expert and the youth as the participant or like the receiver of information. Um, Sometimes it can be a little bit more formal. But I think when you get into youth led prevention or youth led programming, um, it shifts the power dynamic from that top down to be more of an equal or even reverse that so that the youth are the ones who are doing a lot of that leadership where the adults are doing just the majority of the supportive guidance, like maybe perhaps offering um, guidelines or helping youth to understand budgeting versus the project that they're trying to do. And the youth are saying, okay, well, with this budget that you have given us, we believe that these things are the most important for us to focus on and to get for this project.
So, building off of that, why do you believe it's essential to amplify youth voice in prevention through youth led work?
I think that it is really valuable for youth to be amplified in prevention because they have such a unique perspective and because of their ability to share their own values and their own thoughts and solutions to problems in the community with their peers in a different way than adults can. Um, when you have a message that comes from an adult, sometimes it's viewed differently by a youth than that same message might be if it's delivered by someone that they're friends with or that's in their peer group. I think that makes it a lot more valuable for the youth, both the youth delivering and the youth receiving said message, because it builds skills on all sides.
Thanks, Robin. If it's okay with both of you, I'd like to continue that thread of skill building because it seems to be this unique power of youth led initiatives. So let's talk about the skills that you gain because of your involvement with youth led prevention and the impact that your work is making in not only the community, but also in your own life. So, Ryleigh, thinking back on your youth led work this year, what are some of the projects that you've engaged in, and what are some of the skills that you've learned through those projects?
One of the projects I've engaged in is um like creating an after school like place where middle schoolers could like come and have like free time or like get help with anything that they may need help with, like homework or and that have that safe space so if they need to talk to someone. And I've definitely like gained my like organizational skills and like communication skills by like talking with my peers and being able to like organize how we were going to do it and or like present the idea to like the school and like making a list of like what all we had to do first, like how we were gonna go about it and how and who we were going to talk to about it and definitely like what we needed to do to get the message out.
Wow. So let me back up a little bit. And that after school program absolutely did not exist prior to your group project.
No.
Oh, so tell me, why did you all think you needed an after school program?
Uh because we were on a topic, mental health and how it like impacts certain ages and our ages that we were focusing on were like middle school ages. Um and we figured that like if we created this program we could get those kids to come and they have like that safe space and time to just like get their mind off of the like real world and the things that they had on their mind.
As you were looking at mental health and middle school youth, did you look at any data or have any interviews, or how did you kind of figure out what was the issue that middle school students were facing?
We looked at like data and we were like we had like a presentation with like a whole bunch of data and like the issues and like the causes of like the mental health issues. And then like we went from there.
And then going from there, tell me about kind of the process where you decided on the after school program. Were there any other ideas that were
Yeah,
considered?
yeah. Like we had to like vote on it.
Oh, so when you voted, was it like majority rules, or how did that voting process look like?
We like all like wrote down on a piece of paper and then they like looked at like the what we had wrote down on like the papers and like whatever one had the most was what we chose or what we went with.
So you decided on the topic, which was mental health in middle school students, and then you looked at some data and you tried to find out why people were experiencing mental health issues, and then thought of this idea of having an after school place where people connect and relax or maybe get help with or support with their homework moving forward. So how do you know that it's working?
Oh, well, we haven't like put this like program out yet, but we just have like the basic like foundations of like what we will do.
And so it hasn't started yet.
No.
No, because it takes time to build a program.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So when do you hope to have it out, and start having the space open for middle schoolers to attend?
Hopefully by like next school year, like the beginning of next school year.
So it's taken a whole year to plan. Did you ever imagine it was gonna take a whole year to plan a program?
Not really. We were trying to like get it done by the end of this school year, but then like stuff just kept getting like in the way and like our timeline wasn't like lining up, so we definitely had to like push stuff back.
Absolutely. So will there be some people in your group that are seniors who've done all this planning but won't get a chance to actually see it be implemented?
Yes.
Yeah. And I know you can't speak for them, but if you were a senior, how would you feel if you kind of had to leave this whole project behind?
I would be really sad, and I would, like, be very curious to see, like, how it was going or, like, how it started and how the middle schoolers were enjoying it.
So I have one more question. I know I've been asking a lot. So did you all have to go to the like administration of the school to talk about this program?
So, we wanted to start with, like, talking to the principal, and if our principal needed us to go to, like, the, like, board, then we would've went to the board with it.
So did you have to go to the board?
As of right now, we don't really know.
So you're still in that waiting pattern, right? Well, thank you for describing this project that you've been really persistent and patient with as it's unfolded, and it's taken a little longer than folks have planned. And there's still a high level of commitment to get it off the ground next year. So, Robin, what about you as an adult ally? What skills have you learned through this whole process?
I think that I have learned a lot about collaborating with people who are maybe different than me. I think specifically with youth, obviously, because this is a youth program. So I learned a lot about communicating with youth in general and collaborating with them to make, I guess, scaffold their success. Um, I have always been somebody who did not overly enjoy public speaking. And over the course of the last 10 years, that has slowly become something that I've more and more comfortable with, which I think is directly related to the program that we have here. Because I am communicating a lot with the youth, and maybe we are, supporting them when they are public speaking, or maybe helping them learning different skills to support when they're performing these activities. Um, and I think that has I think that has fallen into helping me a lot in that area as well. I also think that it has taught me a lot about intentionality. So it's so important, I think, when you're building programs like this and when you're working with youth, to make sure that you're being really intentional with how you're creating it, even with what's planned for the meeting and how you are purposefully giving the youth the opportunity to lead, giving the space for their voices to be heard, and allowing them to have that room for growth that sometimes is missing other in other groups or in other kinds of youth groups.
And as I heard Riley kind of unpack the project and unpack the process, can you talk a little bit for our listeners? I'm sure they're curious, how your role played out in terms of selecting something to work on, looking at data, finding a prevention intervention and then selecting it and working on how to bring it to fruition. What are some of the things that you had to do alongside the youth and young people?
So my role is a lot of support. For example, I might, for this particular project, uh, I think we led a brainstorming session about what we thought like the biggest problems that our community was dealing with in that age bracket, or in the middle school to high school age bracket. And from there, then we identified the ones that the youth had felt were the most pressing, and we looked at the data that we had related to that. So we're very blessed in our community to have a youth health assessment that's every other year. So, or excuse me, every 2 years. So those data are super helpful when we get to the point where we're choosing what project and what impact the youth are trying to make, so that they can look at that trend data and say, okay, well, here we are, and we have in this case, maybe increasingly poor mental health concern numbers. Maybe I believe that we have some particularly high depression and anxiety rates, especially in our middle school and high school students. And so that allowed the youth to look at that data and identify those sort of red flag issues. And then that led into the brainstorming. Okay, why do we think this is happening here? Um, Specifically in our area, and then what can we do about it? How can we make that different? And so I believe that a lot of the conversation about this, the youth had, where was related to that safe place after school. Does everybody have some place to go after school that's safe? Do they have somewhere to go after school that can support them when they're needing that extra support in some way? Or are they at home alone? Or are they in an unsafe environment in some other way? So this was what they ended up working towards. And then we try as adults to give them a lot of the background guidance. So maybe we'll talk about, okay, prompting what information do you need to share with the principal when you're talking about getting permission? Who is going to create a presentation, or do you need a presentation? And then helping them to kind of think through that whole process so that when they actually get to that presentation, they're prepared for it. They know what they want to say. They will know what materials they might want to share, and they have built those skills up over that planning period.
Thank you so much, Robin, for really unpacking your role as an adult ally in working alongside youth and making the difference that Ryleigh and her colleagues wanted to see in the community that you serve. And we've done this journey through understanding kind of the fundamental difference between prevention for youth and youth led prevention, seeing the tangible impact of these initiatives. As described kind of in Ryleigh's own words in terms of what that process looked like and then what your role is. So my next question is Ryleigh, as you were going through this process led by Robin, um, what surprised you the most about the whole process overall and what youth led prevention is and what it does for the community?
Um, Definitely, like, just knowing, like, the statistics and then, like, of, um, like, the mental health and then, like, what we could do to, like, change. Like, before joining, I would have never, like, guessed, like, what the statistics of this like, of mental health were, like, what causes or, like, what the main, like, anxiety and stress, how that's, like, the main focus until joining, and then once I saw those statistics, I was very surprised by the data that was shown.
Yeah, data can be powerful when you look at it. And then you were able to work with your group to kind of harness the power of that to figure out what it is you wanted to do about it in the community you serve. So, what message would you like to share with other young people who might be listening, or our audience is mostly adults who work with young people about what it's like to get involved with youth led prevention work?
Um, just to, like, always, be there for someone, like, if someone comes to you with, like, something that they need to share, to, like, let them, and also, like, be there to support them. Uh, and if, like, they're trying to, like, recruit you to be involved in youth-led prevention groups, definitely join. You'll have a very eye-opening experience into it, and it'll be, an amazing opportunity.
Thanks, Riley. And what would you say to adults who are trying to work with youth and young people and youth led? So, what do you value about working with Robin and the other adults in your program?
That they're very, like, it's definitely a safe space. Like, if there's something that you need to talk about, they're there to support you, and they're always there for you and give you, like, advice that you may need or, like, how to help you with the problem that you have.
Thank you. And what message would you give to folks who, like a school superintendent or a school principal, or if you had to talk to one of our legislators about funding youth led prevention or having a youth led prevention program at their school? What would you say, demonstrates the value of your experience? So they would say, yes, we want youth led prevention here, or yes, we'll make sure that youth led prevention has money to continue.
Uh, I would, like, bring them, uh, like, what we've worked on and, like, show them how like, our data and like, data and statistics that we have and show them that it can make an impact in, like, communities around the area or just, like, communities in general. so that way they can help youth in making sure, like, youth is involved and, just, like, youth and adults are involved in helping others.
Youth and adults working together is what that sounds like. So, Robin, looking ahead, what do you believe are important things to consider to ensure sustainability of youth led programs?
Well, funding is always one that's a valuable thing to mention, but I think that if you're looking for sustainability beyond just a dollar, it's more about engagement. So having the community engaged in the work helps build that rapport and build that general support for the program. And sometimes that support can turn into financial, and sometimes it's just support for the program in other ways, like being open to allowing the youth to have a program after school, or being supportive of the youth coming to have presentations at places like the school board or places where youth are not always present, offering their opinions. Um, I think building a solid understanding of what the youth-led programming is and how it builds value in the community beyond just, youth skills for their own purposes, um, can help a lot, making sure people understand really what's in it for them, what's in it for the community. You know, we're really building, leadership skills for people who are going to be leaders, They're all of the youth that we have will be adults soon enough, and so that'll be I hope, translate into value for the community in the long term.
Absolutely. Leadership now and leadership in the future, right? So, what would you say to an adult who says, I'm thinking about starting a youth led program? I'm really curious about youth led. What would you say to them?
I would really encourage them to explore it. There are a lot of great programs available through the Adult Allies groups. There's variety of regional learning collaboratives that are available. And if they're not, quite ready to start their own group, maybe they would be interested in supporting other groups that are in existence, considering their own role in the community and making sure that when youth are at the table for any reason, that they're showing them respect and that they're valuing their opinion and allowing them to have space to have that youth voice in the community, making sure that they offer that sort of safe place for youth to be a part of that decision-making process and try to kind of step back from that, I think, unfortunately, natural adultism that can slide into those kinds of places.
Thank you. And hopefully, some of our listeners out there are hearing your encouragement and thinking, oh, if I haven't explored youth led, maybe now is the time. And speaking of time, I would love to continue this conversation. However, it is time for us to find a parking spot for it. And as we close, we always ask our guests a few this or that questions to close our conversation. And these are just meant to be fun things. So just kind of go with your gut answer. So, Ryleigh, when thinking about data, do you prefer the quantitative data, which are the numbers, or the qualitative data, which are the stories?
The stories.
And how about you, Robin?
I definitely prefer the stories as well.
So, Ryleigh, do you prefer to attend skill building workshops for youth, or do you prefer hands on learning by taking on a project to make a difference in the community?
Hands-on learning, definitely.
And Robin, as a facilitator, would you rather facilitate skill building workshops or facilitate those hands on opportunities?
I really enjoy the hands-on opportunities, I would agree. We're gonna have the same answers for everything apparently. But I think that this is, such a to me, that seems like more, engaging and fun kind of an environment.
Absolutely. And this is our last question. And we ask this of every guest. You are reaching into that candy bowl full of M&Ms. Are you looking for a plank or peanut? Ryleigh, how about you?
A peanut.
And will we be the same again, Robin?
No, not that one. I would rather have a plain M&M.
Well, thank you both, Robin and Ryleigh, for this conversation today. Our discussion underscored the critical role of adult allies in creating space for youth voice and prevention. As you consider the insights shared, remember the energy and perspective of young people, as championed by youth all across Ohio, are vital at every level, from local initiatives to broader policy discussions. Thank you once more to our guests for illuminating this important work. And thank you once again to Ryleigh and Robin for sharing their time and thoughts with us today. As we wrap up today's conversation, my final note of gratitude is directed to you, our listeners. Thank you for joining us for this podcast episode. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support the podcast, please consider giving us a 5-star rating, sharing it with others, posting about it on social media, or setting the podcast to automatically download on your favorite channel. Doing so helps us reach more listeners and keeps the conversation going. To catch all the latest from the Center, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, and Facebook at Prevention COE, or visit us at preventioncoe.ohio.gov to sign up for our monthly newsletter. If you missed our last podcast, I spoke with Representative Dontavius Geralds from the Ohio House of Representatives and Maggie Luteris, Public Policy and Advocacy Coordinator at Prevention Action Alliance. During our conversation, we identified best practices for engaging with elected officials and their staff to build lasting partnerships that advance prevention efforts and ways to position organizations as a credible resource for the elected official and their team. Finally, all the credit to Ivory Lloyd, who produces this podcast from Global Insight Productions, and Zayu Zhang from the Ohio Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health, Prevention and Promotion for her research and her scripting.
This has been the Prioritizing Prevention podcast. For more episodes, you can visit us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Apple Music, and many more. This program is funded by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. For more information about us, please visit preventioncoe.ohio.gov. Thank you for listening.